Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Revenge is Ice Cream. First up is Bamboo for You by Mirthless Jester. I have a crappy neighbor with a crappy girlfriend who moved into our small and tight-knit neighborhood. The neighborhood's okay. About 5 years ago. The girlfriend, who is about 20 years younger, is okay, but he is an absolute nightmare. The first few months they were here, their very dangerous dogs kept getting out and chasing neighbors into their homes. They've dug under my fence and attacked 2 of my dogs. Both are okay. You cannot talk to him because he's a man who cannot take accountability whatsoever. Oh yeah, I know a bunch of them. A realtor reported him for leaving his boat parked at his house, and he took it out on all the other neighbors and started reporting everyone for the dumbest things. Well, now he's started breeding dachshunds. I have a dachshund as well, and know they can be stubborn, to say the least. But as a responsible owner, I've trained him not to bark outside. Inside is fine, because I get it. Stuff outside moves, but he is very well behaved outside, and if he's not, we have a backup e-collar. Now, he has decided to let the dachshunds stay outside all day while he's at work, or when they go out to dinner or something, and the entire time they're gone, the dog barks. I have a 3-hour-long recording of them barking continuously. Animal control will not do a single thing about it because they have shade and water. So okay, they have a pool very close to my fence, and I've heard them complaining about our very old crepe myrtle that has been there before their pool was there. So I'm not removing it, quite right too. It's shade for my dogs, my chickens, and my hanging plants, not to mention a safe spot for my visiting birds. Well, we tried asking him not to keep the dogs outside all day to bark, but he told us to go F ourselves, basically. So now we have an additional crepe myrtle set up by the fence with a line of clumping bamboo in the middle. And on a branch on the crepe myrtle they hate so much is a Bluetooth speaker that plays a lovely ringing sound for them. They haven't been able to use their pool in 3 weeks because the ringing is so bad. Here's where it gets very good. They cannot call the cops or city, because their fence didn't have a permit when they put it up, and they know I'll report it immediately if they try. Jerks. And second story today is Catfish Me. Cool. I'll catfish you back. Background. This is by Strangely Stormy 666. Background. So the title is a bit of an oversimplification. This story deals with some harsh themes, I should caution people before we go on. When I was 14, I was stalked, catfished, groomed, essayed, emotionally abused, and overall heavily manipulated by an upperclassman to the point where at the time I didn't know what was real anymore. He even hit me once. We'll call him D. We'll call him Dick, because he is. Even after the abuse was over, he still did everything he could to keep me isolated. He knew that this was hard for me to talk about, and that only a few of my closest friends knew the details. He tried to get my best friends, and it almost worked with a few of them. Thankfully, it didn't end up working in the end. So when he realized that was a bust, he started working on other friends that were less likely to know about this. People who I loved dearly, and people who I just couldn't bring myself to talk to about this. He went to them before I could, told them that I was the abuser, that I was the stalker. And second story today is Need All the Equipment Back? Fine, this project is all yours too, by Aggravating Eyes 5575. I was working remotely for a European-based manufacturer of, at least my division, high-end broadcasting processing equipment. They also made other pro equipment, but this area was the highest end and by far the most technically demanding, very niche, very configuration dependent, etc. Great technical staff and developers in Europe. We had a great relationship, being a bunch of weird tech nerds who could talk about IP ranges and capacitor values for hours. The US office just took orders from HQ over there, had some good basic techs, but not set up to do any high-end troubleshooting. Which is exactly why I existed. There was an acquisition coming up, and auditors started to be involved. We had to send in inventory of all our computers and test gear, etc. Fine, whatever. Well, remember that setup-dependent part? I was right in the middle of a huge project with one of the largest US broadcasters, which had already resulted in one of the largest upgrade sales this division had ever made, and was testing some fresh from the sandbox SNMP features. This is pretty old tech that is still being used, so I enlisted an older Supermicro server I had been barely using for remotely accessing some kit in my workshop to do some basic SNMP functions to make sure these new features didn't bung anything up before I literally put them in the air on 50+ stations. Things were working out fine with tests. I'd get a new revision first thing in the morning, bang on it a bit, send it off to my tech, contact my EOD at the network, which was his morning. Not terribly difficult, but pretty nichey, and also one reason I worked for this company. No one knew at all what any of this was in North America. So, auditors are involved, and the North American office that just takes orders sees this Supermicro server on the inventory list, and it's just the end of the world. Why is there a server out in the field? Why do you need so much test equipment? Who approved this, etc.? My first couple of replies were just disregarded because no one knew what I was talking about. A decision was made that this server had to go back. A third insistence from me that this was actively used, and who else would take this over, fell on deaf ears. It was the most important thing in the entire world that they get this server back. It's a junky old Supermicro 1RU utility beast that costs maybe $1,000 at most. For whatever reason, I was feeling extra snarky the day I should have boxed the server up, so I wrote an extra friendly note to all the techs, the decision makers at the US, and to my tech contact and his boss at the network, introducing everyone, thanking them for taking over this critical project, and thanking HQ for helping take on this time-sensitive phase that would really help me get to other critical projects. About 25 minutes later, I sent tracking information for all the kit, still didn't box up the server, I was supposed to send back. About an hour later, I get a really old email from one of the decision-makers in the US office. He doesn't want to admit that no one at HQ doesn't know what the hell I was talking about technically, and simultaneously realize this is a huge account that would totally affect their bonuses if another nice sale came through. They were trying to save face and cover for their tracks by suggesting maybe I get them up to speed on the project before we do anything drastic. I just replied to his email with the tracking information again and mentioned I had suggested this 3 times now. 25 minutes later, I get a freaked-out phone call from the head tech at the US HQ. Him and his superior, the decision-maker, have just got a very nice call from my contact's boss at the network. They were so happy with the service so far, I had a great relationship at this point, and excited that having someone else checking these updates would allow me to be on site more, big future plans, etc. He is wondering who is going to do this work now. Now this comes up? I just repeated that 3 times this was brought up now, so clearly this decision was educated. They know best. So now there's a full-blown panic at US HQ. Knowing this, I send a note to the developers in Europe to make sure the new updated code goes to catch-all addresses for the US HQ tech team, and not me because they will be doing the testing going forward. This has the desired effect because now the head of development in Europe is on the horn with the decision-maker in the US, wondering about who they recently hired without approval to be able to have these in-house resources now. By the time that UPS pickup was supposed to have happened, somehow having this old server back was no longer the highest priority. In fact, I never heard about the server again. And third story today is Bring Your Own Drinks into the Bar. Oh no, they seem to have gone missing. By Mountain Breath 9701. Years ago, after graduating, I was assistant manager of a student union bar in the UK for a year. For those unfamiliar, student union bars have cheap drinks, with all profits going toward funding events, societies, and sports teams. They also acted like common rooms, and students could hang out without having to buy anything. Bringing in outside drinks, however, wasn't allowed. We would have to stop people bringing outside drinks in maybe a couple of times a month. Then one group started showing up every night with shopping bags full of booze. They never bought anything from the bar, but got steadily drunk, so it was obvious something was up. They were a generally obnoxious bunch, and I think that's probably what screwed them. Rude to staff and other students, they hid their alcohol in a dark corner near the toilets, dumping it under their coats. We caught them there a few times, told them it was staff only, and removed them, but they kept at it. So one night I waited until they stashed everything, then stepped out of the bar office, which opened right into that corridor, scooped up all their coats and bags, easily enough booze for a house party, and took it all back into the office. 10 minutes later, their self-appointed leader sheepishly approached me at the bar. "Hello, mate, what can I get you?"
Nothing, thanks. We left our coats in the corridor, but they've gone missing."
"You mean the staff-only corridor we've removed you from before? Why would you put them there?"
We were just storing them until we left."
"All right, I'll check if we had anything handed in. Meet me in the corridor." I came out of the office door they clearly didn't realize existed with their coats and handed them over.
We had some bags too."
"What was in them?"
Wine, beer, and vodka and stuff."
I popped my head back into the office for all of a second, returned with a smile, and said, "Sorry, no one's handed in anything like that."
"Okay,"
the leader muttered, delightfully dejected, and they all slunk off. I don't think they set foot in the bar for the rest of the year. Staff drinks that night were wild. And story number 4 is "You Will Stack the Hay How I Want It Stacked" by Lord Darkfall. I used to work for and manage a rural stock feed supply shop that delivered hard feed and hay to many of the local hobby farms. During the earlier year or two of my time there was a lady who, after some time, we came to a solid understanding that she can be a prickly bitch. And we have since laughed about this incident. For the sake of keeping her identity safe, let's call her Janice for this tale. Now this gal is somewhere in her mid-60s and has quite the boomer attitude when it comes to doing things. That fun old shtick of, "I've been doing this for..." And fourth story today is "You Will Stack the Hay How I Want It Stacked" by Lord Darkfall. I used to work for and manage a rural stock feed supply shop that delivered hard feed and hay to many of the local hobby farms. During the earlier year or two of my time there was a lady who, after some time, we came to a solid understanding that she can be a prickly bitch. And we have since laughed about this incident. For the sake of keeping her identity safe, let's call her Janice for this tale. Now this gal is somewhere in her mid-60s and has quite the boomer attitude when it comes to doing things. That fun old shtick of, "I've been doing this since you were a nappy, so do it how I tell you." Well, this one fine summer in the middle of a drought, she ordered a large batch of hay, 60 bales. I drive out in the truck, and I know I'm gonna get a good workout putting these babies in her shed, because the truck can't get close to her shed. Not a cloud in the sky to stop that sun beating down on my neck as I unloaded the truck. 33 degrees Celsius, which is somewhere in the 90 Fahrenheit range for you Freedom Unit-loving readers. I start stacking the hay in her shed in a formation, something that's kind of like that and that. Then the next layer, and so on. The hay bales were interlocked, kind of like a brickwork, and making sure they didn't fall over. Each layer being 6 bales, 2 stacks, 5 high, 60 bales. If you need a bit more explanation on that, well, I don't know quite what to tell you, sorry. I also didn't quite know what to tell old Janice when she came running up.
"You're stacking it all wrong," she tells me. "You'll never fit it all in the shed."
As I try to explain my plan, she talks over me and begins to gruffly comment something about uppity young somethings
who think they know everything. Uppity young sods who think they know everything.
She pulls apart my stack and begins to stack the hay all in the same lines, looking, well, straight. I already see the problem. Stacking 5 bales high like this is going to see a whole stack fall down on whoever gets the hay from the top of it. It's dangerous, it's stupid, it's not safe. At least it's not you. Cue malicious compliance. I stack the hay just like she wanted me to, and I notice the stack is very close to someone screaming, "Jenga!" I tell her she can put the final bale up.
"No, I'll feed this one out tonight,"
she says, happy that I stacked it her way. She waves goodbye. I get in my truck and start the engine. "Oh, jings!" I hear from the hay shed. I swivel my head, and there lay poor old Janice under 10 bales of hay that somehow fell on top of her. I promptly unbury her. I call my boss. "Yeah, I'm gonna have to restack all this hay." My boss, "She just won't learn her lesson." This time, as I restack the hay, I explain why I stacked it the way I did. And while she rolled her shoulder, wincing at the pain caused by her own stupidity, she says to me, "Glad one of us knows what they're doing." At least she's not so much of a boomer she can't admit when she's wrong. Although it took an injury to do it. And the fifth and final story today is 6 minutes. Really? By Aromatic Scratch 3481. I drive a semi for a living at the moment. I'm in the first 1 or 2 years of bullcrap stage before switching to towing these monsters. I work for a company we will call Welfare Expedited. They suck. But I have to take their crap until other companies will take me. So I get a load of drywall in New Hampshire and shut it down to New Jersey to a building supply store. I did everything legally possible to get it there in their timed window, including cooking my boots a little bit. As soon as my legally required split-sleeper berth break was done, I drove straight there without stopping. I got to said sleep spot with 20 minutes to spare the night prior. GPS said I would be there at like 12:30, but the truck GPS doesn't have traffic. And I'm heading through the Bronx and over the GW. All said and done, I arrived at the drywall spot at 2:06. Their delivery window is 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. So far, no one has even sweat 30 minutes at these places. I generally call if it's going to be more than 15 minutes. I just assume no one's going to be a prick about 6 minutes. I was wrong. I walk in, give the usual, "Hey, I'm the Welfare Expedited guy. Where do y'all want me to park up?" The guy behind the counter, guy number 1, looks to another guy. "What do you think?" I don't hear or see what guy number 2 says. But guy number 1 says, "Sorry, the cutoff is 2 p.m. It's 2:06. "Yeah, the cutoff is 2 p.m. "You're serious?" "I have to come back tomorrow over 6 minutes." "Yeah, sorry." He kind of seemed like he thought it was absurd too, but didn't speak up. Wow. Now, it's not that they can't unload me. The forklift drivers are right there. Nothing is going on. And they end their workday at 4 p.m. They've got 2 hours. The actual unloading with their forklifts will take them about 10 minutes. And me getting the heavy tarps and securement off and out of their way alone? If they asked me to rush it, I could have that out of the way in 20 minutes. I could have been out of the way by 2:45 easy. It's not ideal for me to do things that way, but I can. They know that. This is their business. They have 5 flatbed delivery trucks themselves. When a Karen wants to buy a product after closing and the underpaid retail workers want to go home, I'm with that. Go home, Karen. I'd never show up to a restaurant within 30 minutes of their closing time. I don't order pizza within 30 minutes of closing time. I'm totally guilty of having done that after a shift at work. Pizza was delicious. It arrived late. This is worker to worker. I'm the one being made to go home late. These dudes were gonna be here for 2 more hours anyway. This was just one guy's way of feeling powerful. The power of feeling like a theoretical 6 minutes of their time is worth more than a minimum of 16 hours of mine, where I'm not paid, and they know that. They know I'm paid by the mile, they know they're costing me a day of pay, they still say no. I literally thought they were joking. So I miss out on hundreds of dollars over 6 minutes. Well, my company takes my next run off me because of this, and this is now what would have been drop Thursday, pick up Thursday night, drop Friday morning, pick up Friday, whatever, go home, deliver Monday, has become drop Friday, pick up on Friday, go home, drop Monday. So I had to a rest stop 10 minutes away and hung out until 1:40 p.m. Friday. I pulled in at 1:56 p.m. just to really show how crummy these people were being. They just hung out and told me where to park. At 2:20. That's way after 2:06. It truly wasn't about their time, they screwed me over just to feel powerful. So the cutoff deliveries is 2 p.m, they close at 4. So I took my time getting the tarps off the securement. The guy who made the call to tell me no, he came out twice to ask me to hurry up. Can you take the tarps off now and roll those straps later? Nah. Well, just warning you, we leave at 4. Okay. So, there these guys are, in the hot sun. Thursday had been nice and cool because of the rain. We could have done this comfortably. Sitting on forklifts. Waiting for me, who takes a 20-minute crap in their bathroom, takes multiple water breaks in my truck. Eventually the guy who I'd noticed in the back office this day, but didn't see the day before, comes out and gets all the plastic wrap off for me. Seems real frustrated. But I just roll up my straps all nice and neat, and I admit I screwed up here. They start unloading me at like 3:30. I was shooting for 3:50. I noticed the back office guy talking to the guy who made the call that 2:06 was too late the day before, and he seems animated. Then I take my sweet time doing my paperwork in my truck. That they brought me back all crumpled up for some reason. I wouldn't accept that. Bring back nice pristine paperwork. I wonder if this was some kind of behind-the-scenes crash-out where the guy was like, F this dude, crumples paper, throws it out, and it has to be fished out of the trash or something. And I hang out waiting for a safe way to pull out of their lot so they can close their fences and leave, etc., till 4:06. I'll never get the hundreds of dollars I lost or that day back, but on day number 2, I noticed the hot parking lot smelled like pee for some reason. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. Before you go, if you'd be so good as to consider supporting me on my Patreon page, that's linked down in the description. $1 a month gets you early access to the videos on Monday. It is appreciated and it does help. There's also links down in the description to my merchandise store and various links to my Discord and other social medias. I think that's everything. So, before we go, let's have the question and answer of the day. And today's question is... And this question comes via Newcomb from the Discord. It was, do you decorate for autumn? I'm assuming that's like for Halloween season, that sort of thing. Is that something you enjoy? Do you like getting the pumpkins and the spooky lights and such out? Or do you do other autumnal type decorations? Let me know what you think in a comment below. Personally, I don't. I do like the spooky season, I just don't decorate for it. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from Revenge's Ice Cream 431. And is there a video game you'd like to play but haven't gotten around to yet? This one comes from Annie Northman. Resident Evil Village. I also have that on my wish list. I would love to play it but never got around to playing it. Steam keeps tempting me because the last few times it's been on quite a significant discount. But I think I'd probably get Arizona Sunshine 2 before that, because I did enjoy the first game. Although the second one does have an animal companion, which I'm not really a big fan of in video games. I kind of just like to do my own thing. Not really a fan of companions in general in video games. Anyway, let me know what you think in a comment below. And, nope. Anyway, thank you very much, Annie. And that brings us to the end of today's video. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.